Welcome to Conversations with Mexicans in New England. As some of you may know, this program will take place every Tuesday at 4 p.m. through our Facebook page. The purpose of this series is to promote the importance of culture and education. We will cover the challenges and opportunities that have allowed Mexicans abroad to take their achievements beyond Mexico before and during COVID times. Let me introduce you Consul General Alberto Fierro, who is going to present our special guest.
Thank you, Jamie. It's a pleasure to be in this second session with two musicians, both from Jalapa, which is the capital of Veracruz. That's we will hear from them, but they coincide here for the second time in Boston. Zaira Meneses is a classical guitarist, and at age 17, she was the youngest participant that won the International Guitar Performers Contest of Paracho in the state of Michoacán, which is a city specialized in production of guitars in Mexico. She was part of the orchestra of the guitars headed by Maestro Alfonso Moreno. Since moving to the US in 2001, she has been known in renowned musical circles for her precise technique and the emotion of her performances that have taken her to many concert halls here in Jordan Hall, in New York, in Salzburg, in Shanghai, and obviously in many places in Mexico. She has developed also a Son Jarocho musical project that disseminates the music of Veracruz in New England, and it's fantastic. Enrique Márquez is also, as I said, a native of Veracruz, and he has studied in Manhattan, Berlin, London, Mexico, and here in Harvard. For almost 15 years, Enrique has built a career managing the promotion and dissemination of music, as well as serving in various academic positions, helping to educate generations of young musicians in Mexico and in the US. As a violist, he has performed in 27 countries in 3 continents. He has been the founding executive and artistic director of the Boca del Rio Philharmonic Orchestra in the port of Veracruz, in Boca del Rio, precisely. And he was the Director General of the Cultural Institute, the State of Veracruz Cultural Institute, which is very, very famous. He's now the manager of events at the Department of Music at Harvard University and the manager of the From Music Foundation, also at Harvard University. So welcome both, dear friends. It's a pleasure that you accepted to be with us today to share with our constituents, with our public, things about your career. And I would start asking you to tell us more about, both of you come from musical families and grew up surrounded by music. Tell us a little bit of what music means to you and how it has kept you company through different stages of your life, including this pandemic. Zaira, you're even married to a musician too, so tell us a little bit.
Yes, I don't know if fortunate or unfortunately. First of all, thank you so much for asking me to be here with you today. It's such an honor. It's really an honor to having this conversation. I hope not to disappoint you in my way of thinking. But I definitely had a wonderful, experience. Yes, I married my husband, I believe, I think 20 years ago or something like that. So I came to Boston in 2000. Yeah, 2001. Wow, that sounds like a little bit. And it has been beautiful, but I did start my career before in Mexico. And I have to say, I really like the title that you named for our conversation today. Challenge and, right? It's the challenges that we have here and the wonderful opportunities that we had here. And I think I was able to start the project of Son Jarocho Music because thanks to the Boston Foundation organization, that was one of the most blessing moments, because I was able to reconnect with Jalapa, you know, with Veracruz. I just didn't know how to combine, because I miss my country. We miss our country, and I've been here for already 20 years, and I just didn't know how to be more in touch with my roots, you know. So I've been playing all my life classical guitar. And so for the first time, I believe in 2015, I organized a festival, and I brought one of my dear teachers, Laura Rebolloso, who plays the jarana. And that's how I started to, because I wanted to learn how to do the Son Jarocho music, which is a very difficult. It's very difficult music to learn. And so so I did that, and next thing I knew is the Boston Foundation sponsored one of our projects, and that's how we got to have Son Jarocho music in Boston. Yeah. Yeah.
And we'll talk a little bit more about Son Jarocho, I'm sure. But let's hear a little bit of Enrique and his family background with music.
Yes, likewise, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be with dear friends and with the Consulate of Mexico in Boston. I'm a musician. I play the viola. Actually, my grandparents are musicians. 3 out of 4 were pianists. Wow. My parents are musicians. My dad played the piano. My mom played the viola. So I grew up with music since before I was born, which is, I am grateful for that. Also, Jalapa is a very musical city. I met Zaira when we were very, very small kids. We were probably, I don't know, 6 or 7 in the school for young children in Jalapa. So it was really not like I didn't have a choice. I had many choices, but I sort of just went into music in a way naturally, because it was what I was surrounded with in my family, my friends. Also, when you're a musician at a young age, you become friends with musicians that are also kids. So you sort of, friends that I have now for 30 years, I met them when we were, 10 or 11, which is nice to see how everybody grows, how people do different things. So Jalapa, I think, was a wonderful place to grow as a musician in Mexico. 30 years ago, we didn't have, Netflix or Zoom or YouTube. So watching musical videos was more difficult. We had to travel to Mexico City to go to Tower Record in La Zona Rosa to buy the VHS videos of famous musicians that you would take back to Jalapa. They were very expensive, so you would buy 1 or 2, then go back and watch them. We watched them with friends at the university. So it was, I think we in a way valued other things that are now we take for granted. You can go to YouTube and listen to any symphony you want, with 10, 15 different versions. So anyway, so I grew up with music education, and throughout my life, I've been, I think, working now towards creating music education programs for children and youth in Mexico and elsewhere.
Fantastic. And both of you, did you meet in Jalapa, or did you meet here?
No, we met in Jalapa. I mean, Enrique was always well behaved. He was always a wonderful student, and I was more rebellious, I think. But he was always a great example to everybody. And yeah, and I remember your father was the director of the music school, right? Mm-hmm. And your mom also, Enrique's mother is a phenomenal. She's fantastic at organizing. And I think because I think thanks to her, I become a musician, because she was such an amazing supporter. So I always, every time I see your mom, Enrique, I say, thank you so much. She's amazing. She really is, yeah.
Also, and Zaira's mother worked at the symphony. So we all knew her mom, and her mom knows all the Mexican and international conductors and soloists. So everybody kind of knows everybody. And yeah, we met when we were very small children. Zaira was always a brilliant guitar player, very talented and a hard worker, although a bit of a rebel, like she says, but she was always working hard.
Yeah. Great. So you're part of a community. And tell us, what has it meant for you and your careers not to be in Mexico? What adjustments have you had to do as musicians, and both also as educators and promoters of music now in the US? Is it very similar, or you have had to learn other cultures, other ways of doing things? What has it given to your career?
Well, if I may, I think it's wonderful to go abroad and study and work in a different place. It opens your eyes and your ears, and you realize, I mean, when you're growing up in Mexico or in a city like Jalapa, the music circle is wonderful, but it's still not small, but it's limited to what it's there. So you may think that you're a really good player, and then you come to New York or Boston, you realize that there's also people who are better than you or much better than you. So you have to work harder or do more. So in my case, I think it's good to be able to go outside and, you know, thrive in a place like New York or Boston. And also, there are things that I think we want to do different in our country of Mexico. So in my case, when I had the chance to go back and work, I tried to, in a way, raise the standards of not playing, but of realizing that there is like there is people out there who do things differently, maybe not better than you, but that you can, you know, do things in a different manner that will give children the chance to grow up with a better technique, a better way of playing. But I mean, living in the US, I've been living in the US for a long time. I went to school here. I lived in New York for many years. So I think you value the hard work, discipline, you know, getting called to play gigs, to play concerts, to make connections. And then you become part of the community here. And also there's a strong community of Mexican musicians in the US, in New York, the Villalobos brothers, who Zaira knows very well. So there's a bunch of people that eventually gets to New York or Boston. And I think in Boston, there's also a community of Mexican artists and musicians that we get together frequently and, you know, have a conversation. So I think it's important to represent our country in Boston at the highest level. Now I'm working at a university at Harvard, so I represent also Mexico there. There are a few Mexican professors, many students. So it's also, I found the community in an intellectual community there that I work with.
Yeah, thank you, Enrique. What about you, Zaira?
Well, I have to say, I was very much in shock when I came to United States, because I could not believe that the government doesn't support as much as in Mexico. Like, I thought, you know, we have the orchestra here and we have the museums and we have all these beautiful organizations, and yet the government wasn't like part of the music education. And that was really shocking. I mean, and if correct me if I'm wrong, Enrique, but I think everything is private here. And the reason why I become a musician is thanks to the government of Mexico, because I had 0 cents to pay my education. And they always gave me scholarship, and they always supported me, and they encouraged me at all times to keep educating myself. While here, you have to have a lot of money to do that. And it's a little bit, it was really shocking for me. So that was like 20 years ago. And then I thought, okay, this has to change. It really has to change. And I sort of like started these festivals, the guitar festivals that we have, that we're doing together with the school, but yet the school is private. So, I mean, I'm still confused. And I remember going to a shrink, you know, a therapist. And then I asked, why do I have to ask my friends for money to donate for my organization, you know? I was in shock, and they said, well, this is normal in here. I was like, oh my God. So this is what I miss about Mexico. I really miss that, even though we have many things, because every country has things, you know, we are not perfect. However, I think Mexico really supports the culture. And even if musicians think they don't have this enough support, they really do. And they're really lucky. And I miss Mexico a lot, you know, I really do.
No, it's true what you say, because in Mexico, historically, government, more like in the French way, has supported the arts. But what you say about a private sector here, something that in Mexico is just starting to happen is philanthropy, and that individuals do fund the arts, which really happens here in the US. In the US, you have to learn how to get grants, but there is a huge amount of people donating to the arts depending in the state, and but I understand that Boston, as the Twin Cities or New York, there are many big donators for the arts. Now, both of you, as musicians who perform and both of you organize performances, what has been the impact of COVID-19 to each one of you in your lives and your work?
I think, I mean, Zaira was mentioning a very good point, as you, Mr. Consul, about Mexico's cultural policy, which you know very well. So I think in Mexico, musicians who are playing in a symphony orchestra or a band, not a band, a symphony orchestra mostly, they are state funded. So there's public funding that goes into that. So they are not performing, but they're getting paid. Here in the US, many orchestras cancel their seasons. Many of them have told their players, you know, sorry, we were not going to pay you until the fall or next year. Some have taken Boston Symphony has taken pay cuts. So I think it's important that the government supports the arts. In my case, I mean, we had so many performances lined up in Harvard from March until May, and we had to cancel everything. So it was a big problem to get in touch with every single artist, renegotiate contracts, pay them. We wanted to pay every single one of them because it would be unfair to not pay them when they were needing it the most. Mm-hmm. So it was a very, very stressful time. I mean, it's still stressful now, but in March, when things started to close, one thing after the next, it became increasingly that we needed to just act fast, pay the musicians, and reschedule as much as we could. So right now we're waiting to see if we're going to have a semester at Harvard an online semester or in person. So that we will know that by the end of the week. So hopefully we'll be able to have performances, but in my life changed a lot. I haven't seen a concert since March, which I miss terribly. So from the artistic management perspective, that's what we've been going through. I'm sure Zaira has felt it from the performer side more than I.
Yes, it's been horrible. Oh, it's been really sad. For many various aspects. I mean, for the economy aspect, of course, I had gigs. I mean, I'm a freelancer mostly. So, the salary for a teacher as a teacher is not enough. So I have to do freelancing, and everything was canceled. I mean, not even postponed, canceled. Okay, so I had to, I applied for a grant, which is wonderful in Massachusetts Cultural for the Arts, but it's very minimum in compared to what I have lost, But money, I'm very positive. So I just started cleaning my house and selling my clothes and furniture. I said, okay, well, money is not an issue. I think that the main issue for us musicians is we don't have the stage, I miss to be on stage, like just being there and being together with the people and making people happy with the music and also bring education to children. I miss that aspect. And of course we can be teaching online, but it's not the same feeling, I think it really misses. And so I tried many things. Of course, I did try to do live performance online. And I cried after because it was like, where is my audience? I just don't know if they like it or not. It's just kind of like, it felt very sentimental. So in that way, yes, COVID for musicians was rough. I think for all my friends too. Yeah, it was very rough. It has been very, very difficult. So what I did, what I did? I just organized a party. I said, okay, we are almost, well, I don't know when this is going to end, but I thought, okay, so how about if I organize a party? And I organized a party at my house, a social distancing. Everybody was distanced to each other. And we were dancing salsa, live music. I just hosted my friends and I asked for tips, whoever wanted to donate and to help them, But it wasn't the money aspect again. It was like the emotional feeling. And this is where I feel some people in the government here in Boston are wonderful about it, but still they are cutting the music education in public schools because they don't have a budget. Everything has changed, everything has turned around. So what are they going to cut first is the arts. So that's very kind of like unfortunate. So some others, other states are fine, but I heard from my dear friends who are trying to hold into their teaching jobs as musicians that they're hoping they're not going to just be kicked out, you know. So it's very unfortunate.
And until we have a vaccine, how are you envisioning the future of music in the next months? I think I've seen many online concerts with different groups that it's very difficult to coordinate because each one is in their own screen. But I suppose that we all have started to become a little tired of Zoom experiences. What do you see for the next months in terms of music? Do you see the possibility of real performances, I don't know, outside to begin with, or with theaters in 1/3 capacity? What have you heard? What can you imagine?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, music has, music and the arts have been our savior in this pandemic. We've turned to Netflix, to music. So it's part of our daily life. It's very important. But in the next months, for on the one hand in Europe, some festivals are happening. Some orchestras are having performances, there are opera performances, music, outdoors, or very small numbers in theaters. In the US, I think it's going to be a lot longer with the current state of affairs, given that there are still many cases popping up everywhere. But I think we should be entrepreneurial and try online medium. But I think we shouldn't get too used to that, because eventually we will have a vaccine or something. This cannot go on for years. It would just crush the economy and everybody. So I think that in the next months, we will see more outdoor performances, maybe in a small gathering outside your house with friends, play a trio, a quartet, a duo. But in the large scale, I think it's more complicated because it's hard to guarantee the audience safety. And in the US, in Boston, audiences tend to be people who are older than younger, sadly. So there are those who are perhaps more at risk, not so willing to go to a symphony hall and be with 2,000 people right next to them. So I hope that with this, we take more seriously that we need to develop audiences at a very young age, that music education programs are very important for the economic reasons and also for cultural, like Zaira was saying. We need kids to be involved with music so that they become, in one way, a musician or an audience member, or somebody who can just enjoy music or enjoy the art, which is one of the great pleasures in life. So I hope that in the next months, we will see a slow start of performances. Maybe it will all depend on what happens with the virus, but I'm hopeful that we can be more like a bit like Europe and start to open up more.
I understand that the Cervantino Festival is taking place in October.
Oh, wow.
They continue organizing their programming.
That's wonderful.
Wow.
Probably with less international artists, more Mexicans than usual, but I understand that they are going ahead with it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think I agree with Enrique. Absolutely. Chamber music, and I think one of the positive side effects of COVID-19 is that it pushes us to think different. It pushes us to be outside of our comfort zone and to be creative and think, okay, what can we do to not just be locked up in the computer, So I definitely agree with Enrique. I think chamber music, if we analyze in the old times, 16th, 17th century, where everything happened in houses, like we had, that's how the chamber music started, like the ensembles and small ensembles. And, every backyard or every house concert with few people is what we have to just kind of push towards, We already kind of did that, but maybe now it would be interesting experience. I mean, my friend asked me, she's playing the harp, and she asked me, let's do something for my birthday. So yeah, we may gonna play together. It's also small gathering and do something like that, you know, to just because we feel the need to express ourselves. But yeah, I do hope, and I don't know about the concert, big concert halls, my goodness, you know, well, we should just also take a moment to support the young generation and give them the opportunity, you know, to come up with ideas. And if it's not possible indoors, well, why not outdoors? As you were saying, Alberto, very wisely, you know, just get your instrument and go outside. I think that's also a very excellent idea, while the weather permits for the instruments, of course. Yeah. So I think, yeah, it's pushing us to think better and more deeply into how we can help the society during this time.
And hopefully, I was talking about philanthropy, that hopefully many of the granting institutions will come to be able to fund, and because a concert with 1/3 of the people, but the same expenses in terms of costs for musicians, for artists, is going to be terrible. And the possibility of making going to a concert many times more expensive would not be good for music either. So I find that there's a big challenge there, and that it will be interesting to see if the governments come in to help, the grant foundations, etc. So tell us, what would your favorite piece be that you would recommend to our public that has given, or that you think that can give us comfort in these strange times? I don't know if you want to play it, if you have your guitar or viola close to you, or if you just want to mention what is a piece that gives you comfort, like the same way we have been going to cooking, and we go and cook comfort food. What is your comfort music? And let's see if we have some questions from the audience. But meanwhile,
sure. I mean, do you have your viola? Maybe we can do a duo.
Viola is in my office now, so I don't have it with me, sadly. But you have your beautiful guitar.
Well, I mean, I don't know what music, any type of music is appropriate for any circumstances, really. But I think I play this. Let me just play something. This is an honor, by the way. Thank you for listening. Yay! Let me see if I can, because the good thing about this piece is that you get to see both of my hands.
Nos vas a poner a llorar. You're gonna make us cry.
Yes, that's the purpose.
Thanks so much. What did we hear?
So that was Recuerdos de la Alhambra by Francisco Tárrega.
Okay.
Yay. No, thank you. Thank you.
Enrique, what about you? Which is your comfort piece that you suggest?
Yeah, I mean, I think I know that some music can make me feel nostalgic. Some music have uplift me. Some music can make me think of memories. So I choose a few. I really like the music of Hans Zimmer. It's a German composer, makes a lot of movie music. But I would recommend listening to Encuentros by Samuel Seaman, a piece that our friend Benjamin Juarez has premiered and conducted many times. It's about Mexico and how it connects to the world. So I think one lesson from this is how we used to take music and the arts, the performing arts, for granted. You know, it was just there and we would go or not go. And we realize now how much we miss it and how much it's a part of what we do. So I hope that, you know, we value things like live music, a live play or dance, that is just such a part of being a human, such a part of community building, and that we develop communities within those venues or those ensembles. You know, you feel like an affinity, or like in Boston, the Boston Symphony gives you great pride, like the Red Sox or the Patriots. But I think Symphony Hall or like Zaira's now Guitar Fest is a staple here. People from all over New England and all over the world come here because of that program that she launched. So I think it's a great thing, and I mean, I think it will transcend any kind of disease or plague. But I think it makes us not stronger, but it makes us more human, which maybe is more important than being strong.
That's true. Thank you, Enrique. We have a question for you from George Matthew.
Okay.
He says, all was not well, certainly with classical music before the pandemic. Enrique, could you suggest some ways that this moment could be a reset for the industry and some of the issues we have all struggled with, from access to bias to getting past the gatekeepers, support, etc.?
Okay. Hi, George. He's a good friend of mine. I know him from New York. And I agree with you. I think music, the classical music industry became a very kind of rich industry. And this is a personal comment. I think some conductors and soloists were getting paid. The fees were just so huge that is a bit why we have this deficit now, that we cannot pay salaries, because they were just such huge fees that they were getting paid, that I think is not that fair. And I think it became a very small circle of people who would decide what composers would be performed, what soloists, what conductors, and that there is a greater good out there. Like in El Sistema Venezuela Inspired programs, there's a huge movement in the world, in the US, for music education for youth. And I think we can, in a way, like George mentioned, we should not shift, but I think of music as a social benefit more than an intellectual one, which of course it is. But I think what music gives you as a young child, it's really amazing. You develop ways to communicate, you can express things that you couldn't otherwise. Playing in an orchestra is just one of the best things in the world. And I wish everybody could do that. So I've been focusing a lot on that. So I hope this is our way, like the question mentions, to shift, to trigger another response to music, and think of it as an essential part of life, as not as some nice class to take, you know, in elementary school, or as an ornament to your life. Is really what makes us what we are. And so hopefully we get to think, and the leaders in the arts also get to change. I think with the awful George Floyd incident, also the arts have been talking about that, how it needs to be more inclusive of other races, other kinds of people. And it's at the end of what, I mean, I think the more plural an organization is, the more rich it is, and the better it can serve communities, which are increasingly in New England and Boston multicultural.
Thank you, Enrique. I have another question from Felix Roberto Gomez Mostajo for both of you. For a young person who's now considering to study music, the current context might be disappointing and worrisome. How would you encourage these young aspiring musicians to maintain the spirit high and still pursue music as a career?
Yeah, that's a great question. Oh, first of all, I wanted to say, Enrique, you just said wonderful things about music being education. That's so true. And so thank you for the question. I think one of the most important things is not to isolate any children, you know, if that's possible during this time, and to always be in communication with other musicians to reach out. And I mean, one of the wonderful things about this pandemic is that it makes us everyone equal. So it's not about like someone who's on stage. Sometimes people will get intimidated, you know, because they're, oh my gosh, on stage with, they look beautiful, and they feel almost like untouchable, you know. Like we see Yo-Yo Ma on stage, or we see Joshua Bell, and oh my goodness, when are we going to get to meet them, you know? So I think one of those, this pandemic, the wonderful thing about this is that yes, we can reach anyone, you know, we can reach out to people, and we could also get inspired, and just ask every musician and everybody who we admire, we like, you know, to ask advice, as he's doing right now, with us, that we are musicians, and also like to have a very good understanding that music is for education. It's really, I never took it as a luxury. It's an education for all of us. So the children now, really, it's a great way of develop at any age, the brain, and also brings youth. We're gonna look younger, much younger. Always, you know, music makes us younger. So that's what I do. This is actually why I'm a musician, because I want to look young forever. It brings the good vitamins, you know, the good effect. It heals us all. So so I think the children, if they don't feel as inspired to practice the instrument, it's just because they're being isolated or way too many hours at home. So just reach out to other musicians, or the local music school, or contact us, you know. Enrique and I, we are available. I mean, I don't know if you, Enrique, but I think Yay.
Enrique, would you have something to add to this?
Yeah, I think the younger the kid is, it's great, but it doesn't, there is no age for music. You can start at any age, doesn't matter, as long as you are willing to do it every day. Some instruments require, I think, if you want to play the violin, if you start at age, I mean, anyway, you can always play. But I think listening to music is very important, different kinds of music. And as you say, we in Boston, we have a great music community, many schools, many after-school programs that you can apply. And there's, yeah, Boston Arts Academy is there. It's an actual high school that focuses on the arts. It's public, so you can go for free. So I think there's a wealth of agents here that can support music education. And also there is the Boston Youth Symphony Orchestras, which is amazing. They have 5 orchestras of children ages like 6 to 18. They also have programs in the inner city for low-income children that are free. So I think Boston in that way is a wonderful place to be a musician. You can really experience the great soloists. And also there's a lot of world music from everywhere, Mexican music from Africa, from Asia. So I think you'd have to dig a little bit and you will find so many people that are willing to teach any kind of instrument and any kind of music that you want. But yeah, I would recommend those, just going through the Boston Arts Academy, perhaps, if your kid is young, and trying to attend many concerts. Many are free. In the summer, you used to have in the Hatch Shell, the symphony orchestra concerts every week for free, where you can go bring a blanket or go to Tangelo, which is a beautiful place in the Berkshires, not too far away. Anyway, Tangelo was canceled, sadly, but I hope it will be back next year. So I think Boston is a wonderful place to be a musician and to grow as a musician.
Well, finally, to close up, I was thinking while you both were giving your comments, the amount of international students that I see when I go to concerts here. The orchestras probably are more than 50% Asians. When I've been to Berkeley, the amount of just Mexicans, there's more than 60 Mexican students in the Berkeley School of Music. But today we heard about the changes in the visas for exchange students, the ones that come with J1. Do you see that in the next year we are going to see a dramatically different panorama in the orchestras and in the conservatories and music schools?
I think that, yeah, that the visa issue is dramatic and it's awful. In a way, many people who want to come to the US, they may go to Canada or Europe, where music education is wonderful, or Latin America. In Latin America, the music education programs are getting better every day, every year. There are many wonderful Mexican people like Justino Diaz teaching in Mexico and others like him who are really developing generations now of more equipped musicians. So I think that, I mean, yeah, there are many Mexican students in Boston studying all kinds of things. But in the case of music, it's a very expensive career. And the jobs are not very well paid. I mean, if you go to law school in Boston and you become a lawyer, you will be paid probably better than I get paid. Or if you're a musician, you have no guarantee whatsoever of a job. And jobs in Latin America or Mexico don't pay so much. So you can have a good living, but you're not going to be a wealthy person if that's what you want to be. So I hope that with this, I mean, in the positive side, with this policy by Trump, maybe Mexico will retain some of their students and it will be better for the country in a way. They will remain there and work there and perform there. But I think it's not very good that, you know, people are not able to come here for a political reason, maybe for a campaigning issue, which is to me nonsense. Anyway, speaking out of my own voice, not representing Mexican government or anyway, but it's just what I think.
Well, I mean, I think music is very powerful. And I think definitely, I mean, Latin Americans, we are very welcome musicians, you know, and as you mentioned, Alberto, it's true. You know, it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter your background. It doesn't matter any color or any race or anything. We all can be musicians. And I think that way is very powerful. And we musicians, we should get united and protest because this is awful. This is terrible. You know, I think I do believe that for any age and any student, they should travel. They definitely should travel the world because that's how you gain more experience and you gain more education. And it is expensive, yes, but everything is possible too. You know, I made it possible. I mean, I had a scholarship from my country, from Mexico, and I made it thanks to them because I always continuously, I was applying for a scholarship. So it is possible. I think if the government, the president that we have right now here in the United States is terrible, and I'm definitely not going to vote for him. And I do hope this, if we kick him out of the presidency, we will probably have better choices, you know. But
this is not a political.
No, I know, and I'm sorry I get too passionate about this, but I do believe that definitely it is very helpful to always bring other students to, you know, to alternate, to also bring United States students to Mexico, for example, you know, American students. And part of the Orquesta de Jalapa that my mother used to manage, half of them were Russian, from Poland, Russian, American, I mean, you name it. Mexico is very, very, very wonderful country to welcome everybody else and give them a job and have like an amazing income, you know, and live like with these beautiful, delicious fruits and vegetables. Why United States cannot do that for us? So, I mean, I know it's not political, and I'm so sorry if I'm getting too excited, but so I think, answering your question, I will see this, we should use the power of music and use it as a tool to make it, for all the students and musicians, a better place. And we need to also, you know what, we need to understand that musicians, we are not all the time on stage. We also have administration jobs. So a career in a music career, we can make it out of whatever we want to if we get creative. You know, it's not only about being on stage. So I definitely want to encourage people, like, even though we're going through these difficulties, I will never change my career for any other one. You know, I will always try to make the best out of it and encourage people to be a musician. We all should be a musician. And as you said wisely, Enrique, you are right. The George Floyd situation, which is Black Lives Matter, is horrible. Imagine if we had music education in the public schools, like everybody had access to music. Like, I'm talking about low-income people who have no way of paying such a big $50,000 at New England Conservatory, you know, like, and they are even helping with scholarship, but it's not enough. We have to bring music to the public school, and the government has to pay for it. I mean, and let's forget about any wall. Let's just build bridges and start making sense of what music really is about and how powerful it is and how much we can help the society. So we could all have been avoided all this racism if we get the musicians more stronger and more active, you know, more like, let's do something to make a better world. It's not just about playing, and it's beautiful playing the instrument, you know, I love it. But I want to also transcend beyond just playing music. There is more deeper than that. And Enrique, you're a great example of that, because you have a position where you are administrating, you know, the arts, and you're wonderful at it. And you have also a wonderful position. So I think it's possible. We just have to be strong and these news are always a little bit, you know, but thank you for the question, Alberto. I always love that you encourage me to think different.
Well, thank you both for giving us time to reflect on your passion, music, to see the devotion that you have to the devotion and the discipline. That's something that not many people take into account. The discipline that artists and musicians have in order to really have control of their instrument and and I don't know how many hours both of you every day are doing rehearsals and playing your own music. But thanks so much, and we hope to see you live very soon, hopefully. And Enrique, you're going to Jalapa. Enjoy your 2 months over there. Zaira's gonna be very, very jealous.
Yeah.
Go to La Sopa and have a beautiful dinner for me one day.
Enrique, when are you going?
Yeah, I'm going very, very soon.
Enjoy. That's wonderful.
You should come too.
Yeah, actually I should. So can you travel? Is it possible?
Yes.
With the COVID, you just put a mask?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Supposedly until July 21st, it should be essential travel. But if you have your parents over there, that's essential. You cannot be traveling just for tourism right now. But if you are from Mexico and you have family and you need to see them, that becomes a possibility.
I need to go. My husband has been telling me, no, we cannot travel for the entire year. I mean, I was like, okay, no, I'm going. Okay, that's good.
Well, thank you again for your time. It's a pleasure to to have the opportunity to reflect with you and learn more about your careers. Thank you, Jamie, also for helping us with all the technical issues. And see you again.
Thank you, querido. I love you.
Thank you, Alberto. Thank you, Jamie, for having us here. It's an honor.
Bye-bye. Have a wonderful rest of the summer.